Hi, and welcome to What Is This Weapon? I'm Jonathan, and this week we have what's tempting to call the MP5 at home. There are a few of those. Really, as I'm sure a lot of you have either spotted or will spot as you look at this more, this is more SIG based, as in the original Swiss-German SIG, not the modern SIG Sauer in the US. This is that lineage, and you can see that from the receivers, the pistol grip, the buttstock. Compare this to the SIG 500 series of rifles. You will see that this is essentially inspired by that. So it's the product of FAMAE, or FAMAE is how I tend to pronounce it. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced in Chile, which is where this is from, designed and made in Chile. And the model is the SAF. Just in case you think I'm lying. There's the manufacturer's name, and there's the model. I should attempt the pronunciation of what these acronyms stand for. So FAMAE is Fábrica y Maestranzas del Ejército de Chile. I apologize for that. Meanwhile, the SAF is Spanish for submachine gun, subametralladora, literally submachine gun in Spanish. Or of FAMAE. So the F contains the name of the company. That's what SAF stands for. I don't know if that's pronounced SAF or SAF, but that's what it is. Now, it's not a copy of anything else. It is a spin-off of the SIG series of rifles, as I say, or rather of the FAMAE licensed copies of the SIG 500 series. This is a submachine gun accompaniment, if you like, or stablemate to those. So there is no SIG parallel to this 9mm submachine gun. So it's normally said that this is a submachine gun derivative of the SIG 540. I would say more like the SIG 543, because that's the model that has this type of folding buttstock on it. Now, on that subject, bear with me while I wrestle this thing into submission, because it's extremely stiff. So it's a lift up and then pivot, and it's just held under spring tension essentially alongside the weapon, leaves the bolt free to reciprocate. You can in fact hip fire this thing with the stock folded if you want to, obviously not recommended for most scenarios. So that's the folding buttstock taken from the 543. Quick to deploy, no fiddly catches to mess with, just a bit fiddly to put back when you want to fold it up probably for storage. The controls are SIG rifle adjacent. So we have the not ambidextrous, but marked on both sides selector here. So all the way up is safe, logically enough. Down one, that's two. Down one for semi-automatic. Down another notch for 3-round burst. A little awkward to do from this angle, but. And then all the way down against the stop for automatic. So it is a burst trigger pack on this. We do have a paddle mag release here. So a little bit MP5, but not the same manual of arms as the MP5. It's not copying it's not roller delayed for one thing. It's a straight blowback design. So none of this reaching up here. You do have a bolt hold open on here as well, but just to cover the magazine catch, very simple, press the paddle. The magazine is a very tight fit on this one. I'm not entirely sure why. But the magazine is marked FAMAE Chile in a little shield on there. Proprietary magazines, 30 round. This is 9x19, by the way, which won't surprise anybody, I'm sure. There's a date mark on the magazine of 1992, which is interesting because the sources I could find said this went into production in 1993. So I might be missing something there. We don't have a date on the weapon itself. And then we have it does make it look a little MP5-y up front, the way it's designed. But I'd say the only thing they've borrowed from the MP5, it doesn't have the fully enclosed front sight of the MP5, but it does have rather reminiscent rear sights with this rotating angled drum that gives you your close quarter aperture open in that position, and then let's put it on 150 meters, gives you that size aperture, and you spin it around to 100, So that's 50. So 50, 100 and 150 meters, which seems pretty reasonable actually. Yes, you can push a submachine gun out beyond 150, but are you going to hit much? I would suggest possibly not. Just to prove that the hold open does work, we pull the bolt back, or we were to fire it with the last round, it locks open, and then we have the catch on the other side, push up, and that allows the bolt to go home. So obviously we would have changed magazines at that point. Right, let's strip this thing down. Nothing too earth-shattering in there, but let's do it anyway. Oh, worth mentioning, the magazines have G36 style clip lugs and sockets on them, so you can clip multiples together. The takedown pins or disassembly pins have plungers on them, so they're a bit more positive. They can't get knocked out, but they're not captive. So we let's pop both of those out. So push in from one side and then pull out from the other. Slightly fiddly with gloves on, but same as the SIG really, entirely. There's our lower assembly. Nothing exactly earth-shattering, and a little hard to discern the burst ratchet, but it is in there. The upper, we want to remove the handguard by pulling down, popping off the lower. Modern variants, the semi-auto variants that I think made it into the US, have different, more modern, more ergonomic handguards with accessory rails. This is the old school version. See how the barrel is very heavy for a submachine gun. Short but heavy, tapered with a very heavy rear to it there. Got proof marks on there. British Nottingham proof marks. Not uncommon for weapons brought into the Ministry of Defence pattern room collection. Stuff has to be submitted to proof before it can be imported, sold in the UK. So British proof marks. To then, you'll notice I seem to have done that a bit backwards because we haven't removed the bolt carrier group, but that's because you need to press up on this plunger at the back, which pops out this at the front and allows us to remove this incredibly tiny and easily lost pin. But we need to do that to then remove the recoil spring and guide rods, which then allows us to, well, doesn't. Like the SIG rifles, you have to press down on this doohickey here to pop out the cocking handle. That then lets the bolt carrier, or the bolt I should say, slide out the back, and it's a closed bolt but straight blowback like an HK UMP. So maybe it's more like the UMP we have at home. That's it really. That's the machined block of the bolt, standard claw type sprung extractor in the front there. And we have a fixed ejector, which you can see there. Part of the pressing, the stamping for the receiver. It is a stamped steel upper, as you've probably seen, spot welded, or the trunnions are spot welded in. Well, barrel extension at the front and really quite a lightweight trunnion welded in to bridge the gap there. It's getting a lot of its strength from, well, not just from the outer pressing, but there are two flat segments welded in there to give it reinforcement. But it's a good balance, I think, of weight and strength and cost, I guess. That's it, really. Front sight, not gas block, is part, or assembled as part of, it's actually two separate parts, this nose cap, which has a sling swivel in it, and simple fixed rear sling swivel. Not, in fact, not a swivel at all, a loop. A pair of loops for slings. That's kind of it, really. So there are other variants. This is the sort of bona fide select fire original variant. Came out, again, I think 1993. We then have variants we don't have. So there's an SD version, an integrally suppressed version. I'd love to get our collective hands on. The mini SAF, a sort of shorter version, like an MP5K equivalent. The SAF 200, that's actually a factory version with so regardless of whether it's semi-auto or not, with a more ergonomic foregrip and rails option, and that's what we see on some of the semi-auto civilian versions, which exist in parallel to these variants. Taurus also make a version in 40 Smith & Wesson, interestingly. So it's gone from SIG, Switzerland, to Chile, to Brazil, in that case. There was, I believe, a semi-auto version available in Canada at some point as well. Users-wise, we've got Argentina, airport security police. So if you've visited Argentina, you may well have seen these guys with these guys. And one police force at least. Brazil is in service with them, hence the involvement of Taurus. Federal Highway Police and the military police of Sao Paulo as well. We've also got El Salvador and Portugal, and the Chilean Armed Forces and Police, which won't surprise you at all. That's just a list from Wikipedia.
Wikipedia? You're using Wikipedia as your source of information?
But I often find the only two places to look for reliable information on users are, well, Jane's ideally, but if you're in a rush or you're prepared to check the references, you can usually rely to some extent on the users that are listed on Wikipedia, but only if they are referenced and only if you follow the references to the source, because sometimes people get stuff wrong or even outright fabricate stuff like that. But so not a widely used bit of kit, somewhat regional to a certain part of the world, but unusual. And I guess if a video game developer was looking for something that was not an MP5 to put in a game, might be a good choice for that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember the usual YouTube things, liking, subscribing, all of that is helpful to us. But I also have in front of me what I've been told is called the Jonathan Bundle. Not sure what to make of that, but here it is. We'll put the price up somewhere. So a couple of books written by me and some other nice items, one of which I'm wearing, this very splendid lapel pin of our gold Kalashnikov. There's a key ring of it as well. So if you're looking at more than one thing involving or adjacent to me, you might want to get this. We also have our amazing new exhibition, Gladiators, Heroes of the Colosseum. Opening on the 28th of June, which is very exciting. No guns in it, I'm afraid to say, but lots more to enjoy and be inspired by in that. So please do come and see that and visit us at one of our 3 museums if you can't make that one. And we, meanwhile, will be here again next week.
And then you've got 10 seconds to tell us what your ideal Sunday is.
My perfect Sunday.
4 seconds.